Um, the Indian Child Welfare Act was passed in 1978, and it was a part of the many bills that were the many legislative efforts that were going about in that era of time. Indian civil rights, Indian education, the Indian Health Act. I think all of these things that were really addressing, decades-long problems in Indian country. So it emerged at that time, and it was done in response to the facts that became known that so many Indian children were removed as a matter of policy from Indian homes, whether it was from church organizations who, sort of on an informal basis, took children and tried to place them in families where they thought the children would be better off or be better taken care of, or maybe that family would have more resources to take care of children, because at that time, reservations, there was a lot of unemployment. There were not a lot of resources for families. And so whether it was, well-intended or not, the consequences were the same, in that tribes were losing children, in huge amounts. And also there was, the racist factor, in that, county social workers seeing, Indian families and how they raise themselves, made determinations, sometimes false, that, that Indian families were not taking care of their families because they didn't take care of them in the same way that, a white family would, or, imposing their values on, on Indian families. So a lot of children were removed, on that basis. I think there's a generalized knowledge about the Indian Child Welfare Act. I don't think that there is a systemic response to it. I think that there is still a lot of work to be done there. And I think because American Indians are not a large part of an urban population, that the county systems just don't have the means, or have not developed the means, to adequately respond to the issue. And so in some ways we've come a long way, in that, a lot of people seem to know about the Indian Child Welfare Act, but we still don't have the response mechanisms within the county. And families have less resources than ever to respond. There's no federal funding for urban cases. It's a difficult, how we fund it within our agency, is to take, whatever county contracts that we may have, or state funding, or foundation funding, and take aspects of it that we can, apply to address those issues. But we don't have a specific source of funding that would enable us to respond, wholly. It's kind of piecemeal. And I just think that that's, one of the major problems, or that urban Indian programs have to address. There's no specific funding mechanism that addresses that issue in an urban context.